And now returning to Fightful.com, the one, the only, Vincent Russo.
Sean Ross Sapp, I never thought I'd say this in my entire lifetime, but I missed you, brother. I miss you. I miss talking to Sean Ross Sapp, bro.
I definitely expected you to say that.
Oh, okay. All right.
I definitely expect you to say that. Now, we're going to be telling some stories throughout each week here on The List and Your Boy, and we're very glad to have you here. And it's interesting timing because last week Sean Waltman brought up a very, very interesting story, I thought. He said that you once pitched Val Venus in DX. And when I initially heard about that, I was like, that doesn't seem like it would fit. And then immediately I said, well, it doesn't seem like it would fit because it just didn't happen. The more I thought about it, I was like, wow, Val Venus and DX, that could have been something that could have launched a guy maybe even more than he was launched. But when did you pitch that?
Sean, I got to be honest with you because somebody buzzed me about that on Twitter. Bro, I don't remember pitching that at all. I really don't. Now I'm 100% sure that Sean is correct. I mean, if Sean remembers it and he says we had that conversation, I have every reason to believe him. But quite frankly, from my end, bro, I don't remember that at all.
Looking back, is that something that you think would have worked for Val Venus?
Oh yeah, I mean, bro, that's why it's a little weird to me because I definitely could see that working. I mean, no question about it. But on the other side of the coin, I don't think Val Venus needed that. I think Val Venus worked on his own, bro. He was a great character. He was a very strong character. So, it makes sense to me, but I also don't think that he needed that. But, like I said, bro, I mean, Sean seems to remember that vividly. And I don't have any reason to doubt him. I just don't remember that conversation at all.
Were there ever any considerations that you remember, whether it be from you or anybody else, to add people to D-Generation X?
Bro, here's what I remember the most, bro, and I love this. I remember, bro, first of all, I have to give credit to, a lot of people, Vince takes credit for everything, which is absolute bull crap, bro. It's their narrative. I got to give all the credit in the world for, Road Dogg, Brian, Jesse James, and Badass Billy Gunn. Bro, Vince McMahon pitched that to me when we had Triple H, Chyna, and Shawn as DX. Vince, one day in a creative meeting, pitched to me that Brian James and Billy Gunn join them. Bro, I looked at Vince like he was out of his mind. I did not see that. And I mean, bro, where they were that time at the card, they were certainly not up to the level of, Shawn, Hunter, and Chyna. So, like, I thought Vince was freaking nuts. But, Vince wanted to do it, so we did it. The next thing I had to do, bro, was I had to sell Shawn and Hunter. Bro, they wanted no part of those guys. Absolutely no part. They felt those guys were beneath them. They felt those guys were going to bring DX down, which is why we did all the stuff with the New Age Outlaws on their own first. It was almost like an audition, bro, and they had to prove themselves to Triple H and Shawn, and then when they finally did and the time was right, we brought them into the fold. But yeah, bro, that was a Vince pitch, and I got to tell you, I did not see that at all.
So this had been in the cards for a while, obviously before Shawn left, because they debuted with DX the next day.
Yes.
What would have happened had Shawn maybe hung around?
Well, bro, here's the funny thing. Like, I'll never forget Vince saying this to me at the time, and he was dead on. Bro, this was a time when WCW was taking all the talent from the WWE. I mean, this was, Scott and, and Kevin and Piper showed up there and Rick Rude. Like, every week it was somebody else. But those guys were veterans. And I remember Vince turned to me and he goes, Vince, we got all these young guys here. We got all this untapped talent. We need to use our young guys to combat those veterans. So, you know, that had a lot to do with giving those two guys the opportunity.
So you mentioned that Sean and Hunter weren't on board. Was Sean like expected to stick around after WrestleMania by the time you all had pitched this?
I think he was, bro. I think he was. It was always, you know, Sean, I swear it was. I and I've said this before, bro. I never, ever saw anybody stand up to Vince McMahon the way Shawn Michaels did. Shawn just did not care what he said to Vince. And of course, bro, you fast forward 20 years later, Shawn's a totally different guy now. And Shawn would tell you I was the biggest prick back then because, bro, he was under the influence of, you know, a lot of things at the time. But, bro, it was such a freaking touchy situation with Shawn. I mean, bro, he would tell Vince, F you, you know, to his face. I mean, that's how Shawn was. A lot of times I found myself in the middle of it. A lot, you know, bro, Shawn threatened me once. You know, so it was like dynamite, bro. Shawn wasn't a sure thing at that time. And like I said, bro, I think a lot of it had to do with he was under the influence of some stuff where he just wasn't in the right mind a lot of times, you know?
Definitely. Another thing I wanted to talk about, 2002, everybody knows you went back to WWE to have a little conversation for a day. How did all that come about?
That came about, bro. I swear to God, it came about that, you know, I was done with WCW and I was working my own business in Atlanta. And the WWE ratings kept going down, kept going down, kept going down, kept going down. And Disco used to come into my store all the time. So Disco came in one day and like he always used to bug me. You got to call Vince. You got to contact Vince. Their numbers are going down. You got to contact Vince. And bro, I really didn't want to contact Vince because I really.
So you had Disco arrested for loitering instead.
Yeah, I should have, bro. I should have. But I knew bro, like there was a part of me that, bro, the money's always good. I'm not going to freaking lie to you. But there was a part of me like that just didn't want to get into it. So Disco said to me one day, he goes, Vince, he goes, when their ratings go back down to a 3, you got to call them. And, bro, I said to Disco, okay, bro, if they go down to a 3, I'll call them. Honestly, never thinking it was going to go down to a 3. Never thinking. And then, sure enough, bro, they went back down to a 3. Disco called me the next day and he goes, bro, you got to call them. And literally that's when I reached out to Vince McMahon.
So you went in for a meeting. It lasted one day. What was that like? Who did you speak to?
Bro, you could say that I made a mistake, but I don't really think I made a mistake. And I'll tell you why. Vince flew me into his house a couple of times. Nobody knew about it, bro. Bro, not even Stephanie knew about it. I didn't know about that till later on. Vince wound up hiring me. He hired me. We agreed on money. He hired me. So it came down to, okay, Vince, how are we going to spring this on everybody? And, bro, I think King of the Ring was that weekend, right? And Vince turned to me and he goes, well, just show up at the pay-per-view. And I'm like, Vince, that's not right. I'm like, you can't do that to your writers. You can't do that to the writing team. I don't want to do it that way. Now, bro, if I would have agreed to do it that way, things may have ended up completely different. But I said, no, bro, that's not the right way to do it. I don't want to do it that way. So he said, the writers are meeting tomorrow. Will you stay overnight and meet with them tomorrow and I'll make the announcement? I said, yes, I will do that. I got up the next morning, bro. I had breakfast with Shane McMahon, who was a big advocate of me coming back. Me and Shane had a great breakfast. Then Vince brought me to the writers, bro, and I've talked about this before. You got to keep in mind, I left 3 years earlier, and it was just me and Ed Ferrara. I walk into a room, bro. There's 15 writers in this room. I mean, like my jaw hit the floor, and a lot of them were really young. And Vince made the mistake of leaving me in the room alone with the writers. Now, Sean, at that time, anybody can look at the ratings. The WWE sucked. I mean, they were freaking free falling. And I sat there and I literally laid out a year of creative. Now, you got to understand, I know wrestling. I know how the game is played. And as I'm laying out this year of creative, like jaws are hitting the floor. Like they couldn't believe the stuff I was laying out to them. I knew in my heart of hearts that the minute I left and Vince came in, that they were going to bury me to Vince, because quite frankly, if Vince hired me, he didn't need any of them. I mean, it was that simple. And, you know, wrestling's all about protecting the spot. Also, during that time, bro, Stephanie was not there. I think this is when Vince told her that he hired me. I had one conversation with her, bro. She was so freaking disrespectful to me and talked to me like a redheaded stepchild that when she hung up the phone with me, I knew there's no way this is going to work out. This is just not going to work out.
Why do you think that was with her?
She didn't want me there, bro. Her and Triple H wanted the power. They, you know, she was just named head of creative. I knew more about creative than she ever would. I still do to this day. Bro, it was all about power. And, you know, Shane wanted me there wholeheartedly. Stephanie wanted me nowhere near the WWE. And, bro, I was not going to join that company to be abused by Stephanie McMahon. That was not going to happen.
Had this been a few years later, just hypothetically, and she wasn't involved with creative, do you think that conversation with her would have been different?
Absolutely. Absolutely, bro. But, bro, you got to look at it. You got to look at it, too. Like, you got to look at it realistically. The fact, and this is why Vince never told his daughter, the fact that I would have been reporting to Stephanie would have been absolutely ridiculous. With everything I had accomplished there and her having no writing experience whatsoever, and I had a report to her, I think even Vince knew that would not have worked. And it wouldn't have, bro. I mean, if I would have went back, it just would have been a massive waste of everybody's time.
Another thing I was kind of wondering, you mentioned how you had laid out creative. Were there any people there then that you hadn't worked with previously that you looked at like they could be something special? I would love to do something with them, as in from a talent perspective.
Yeah, but Eric Bischoff. I pitched that whole idea to Vince. They weren't thinking about bringing Bischoff in, bro. They hadn't even done the WC. They hadn't even butchered the WCW invasion yet. I laid out an I told them, bro, I personally don't like Eric Bischoff, but it's never personal with me. It's always what's best for the show. And I said to Vince, you need to freaking hire Eric Bischoff. He's a great freaking talent. And I laid out an unbelievable story that included Vince, Bischoff, and Shane that Vince bought hook, line, and sinker. And it was one of the things that I laid out to the writers that day. And, you know, sure enough, you know, I never went back there, but they did do the Eric Bischoff story, and they just totally killed it.
So this was about a year after they did try the invasion angle, and it just didn't work. But they didn't have a lot of the big names. They didn't have an Eric Bischoff. How different do you think that could have been with him?
Oh, I think it could have been you, bro. I don't think they needed big names. I mean, I really don't. And, bro, let's face it. If they wanted the bigger names, they could have got them. All they had to do was pay for them. And I think, like, if I was in there writing and they needed to pay for these names, I think I would have had a story, you know, where the names would have been important. I think Vince would have paid for them. So, like, I think they could have got some of the players, but I don't think creatively anybody ever laid out a strong enough story why they would need the major players. But I think Eric would have made a huge difference.
There are a lot of names backstage in WWE or WWF at the time who may have names that you may hear but not see, people like Kevin Dunn. Can you explain exactly what a Kevin Dunn does at WWE?
Bro, first of all, I'm a huge fan of Kevin Dunn, and I think people have no idea what Kevin Dunn does. Kevin Dunn is the executive producer of all of television. He oversees all of the television product. Bro, that company, if Kevin Dunn ever left, it would be a severe blow. Kevin Dunn is as important to the WWE as Vince McMahon is. Bro, my time there, Kevin Dunn had nothing to do with creative. Zero. He ran the television department, never, ever got involved creatively. A lot of times, you know, today people want Kevin Dunn's head from a creative aspect. Bro, I don't know if that changed over the years. I can't imagine that it had, because executive producer and head writer are two completely different things. But that company would not be the same without Kevin Dunn.
Another name that you see a lot, but you don't necessarily see their face, Jim Johnston, who was involved in the music, and the fact that he was able to create such a wide array of music for a long time is pretty impressive. What do people, or how long or how much did you really work with him?
I didn't really work with him at all, bro, because Jim Johnson was a freaking genius. And I mean, everything he freaking came up with was unbelievable. I sure
You're saying you don't work with geniuses, right?
No, what I'm saying is I don't critique geniuses. I mean, he was a genius at what he did. I certainly wasn't going to say, no, Jim, that theme sucks. But, bro, that was the thing with Vince McMahon back there, bro. He surrounded himself with people that were very good at their jobs. From Jim Johnson to Kevin Dunn to Vince Russo to Jim Ross. You know, everybody was very, very, very good at their job. Fast forward, 20 years later, freaking Vince McMahon's writing the TV again. I don't know how that happened.
Is there a theme that you ever heard of Jim Johnson's, like as soon as it hit and you were like, that was made for this guy?
Every one of them, man.
Obviously a lot of them, but like you hear Val Venus is an example that we'll use because I know that you had a lot of input on him. You hear that and you're like, well, that's definitely when I hear Val Venus and I hear that theme, I can connect the two.
Yeah. Bro, even like a Goldust. When and I'm talking about the original freaking character, not the watered down version that they have now, but even the Goldust when he came, I mean, God, bro, what a gift, man, to just be able to take these personalities and Taker with the gong and bro, that's a talent. I mean, that is a God-given talent, man.
That theme still goes pretty hard today. Goldust.
Yeah.
Very glad to see him. It looks like they're going back to it, but there's no way they can go back to it the way that they did. But one, because America is so different. The world is different 20 years later, but that'll be an interesting one. Harvey Whippleman worked backstage at WWE for a long time. What exactly did he do?
Well, bro, he did whatever you needed him to do. I mean, and bro, another guy, I don't know if you're going to bring him up, but that was right alongside him was Steve Lombardi. The Brooklyn Brawler.
On my list, actually.
And bro, I got to tell you, see, this is where I get pissed off because I was there, like, especially Steve Lombardi, bro, because he was there for so long. I saw his contributions to the WWE backstage, and I look and I'm like, seriously, is this guy not in the Hall of Fame because of his fake one-loss record? Like, if anybody should be in the freaking Hall of Fame for their contributions to that company, it should be freaking Steve Lombardi. But Lombardi and Harvey Whippleman, bro, they were Johnny on the spot. Whatever you needed, you went to those two guys. Irreplaceable and invaluable, bro.
It seemed like when the Ultimate Warrior made his Hall of Fame speech, that type of role, maybe even the Jim Johnson role, was one of the things that he wanted the Warrior Award to be for, or at least something along that line. Even cameramen, he said. So it's cool to hear how invaluable those people
Bro,
really
there
are.
was a guy, bro, and I wrote a whole chapter about him in my first book, Forgiven. But like, bro, the special effects guy, what's his first name? Curtis. I can't even think of his name now. But anyway, the guy who did all the freaking Curtis, I think I used to call him King Curtis, whatever. But the guy that did all the special effects, like whatever you freaking need, and he was a magician, bro. I mean, that was his job by trade. But every little prop, whatever you freaking needed, you went to him. And it was it was like an MVP role of the team. Anything I need, I can't remember his first name, Kenny Curtis. But anyway, I'd go to him and he'd get it done. Without those people, there isn't a WWE, bro. It's that simple.
In 1999, you moved from WWF to WCW. Now the talk is that SmackDown was added to your plate. And you said, well, I want paid accordingly. Is it true that you asked for a raise from about $350K to $1 million for that?
Bro, you want to know the truth about that, Sean?
I do.
I'm going to tell you the truth about that. Bro, you know how like sometimes like you'll do something because like you want to get out of it? You know what I'm saying? Like, you're done with it and you'll do something to subconsciously to get out of it.
Are we talking about you leaving WWF or Fightful here?
No. I'm talking about, bro. I think I was making $350. And yes, I did ask for $1 million. Bro, I honestly think mentally and emotionally and physically at that time, I was done with the company and I wanted Vince to say, no way, no how. And that would be my out. I really felt that way, bro. Because come on, bro, $1 million was ridiculous. And I threw a ridiculous number out there. And it wasn't about the money. It was the fact that he was running us into the ground with Raw. He added SmackDown without letting Ed Ferrara and myself know. So I threw out this ridiculous number because I think I was done. But then, bro, I'll never forget, shortly after that, I went into Vince's office. I broke down. I started crying. I think I was on the verge of a nervous breakdown. I told him I wanted to move my family closer to my wife's family in Indiana because I was never home, and I wanted her to be closer for family. And I'll never forget, bro, he looked me in the eye, and I've said this a million times. He said to me, Vince, I don't know what the problem is. You could hire a nanny to take care of your kids. I was done right there, bro. Done. You don't say that to somebody who loves their freaking family the way I loved mine. It wasn't about the money at that point. It wasn't about anything. It was the fact that he was telling me, your family doesn't mean shit to me, and this company needs to be your priority. And I said, no. Bro, I left that office and I contacted J.J. Dillon. And I'll tell you this too. When I made the phone call to Vince that I was going to WCW, one thing he said to me was, he goes, Vince, I was going to give you the $1 million. And I said to him, Vince, it wasn't about the money, and you still don't understand that. And he didn't, bro, because he had no conception, none, of the importance of family. None, bro. So he didn't understand where I was coming from or what I was saying. But those words, we were done.
So how long after that was it until you had spoken to Vince McMahon? Did you speak to him at all? Like happy birthday, anything like that during your WCW tenure, or was it after that?
Oh, no, I didn't talk to him at all during WCW. It wasn't until that time in 2002 where I almost went back.
Have you spoken to him since then?
Bro, I'll tell you. You want breaking news?
Sure.
I reached out to Vince McMahon in the last week.
Really?
Yep.
Elaborate, please.
I'm not going to. I will tell you, I reached out to him and he got back to me. And I'll tell you why, Sean. I'm being honest with you.
He was
I
trying to get
am
my contact info, wasn't he?
no. I am still a wrestling fan at heart, going all the way back to when I was 10, 11, 12 years old. Okay. I hate today's product. To me, it is not professional wrestling. I don't want to be the guy sitting here and critiquing the problem without saying, hey, here's my olive branch. I want to help you. I think I can help you, as the numbers continue to go down every week. So I had to reach out and say, you know what, bro, if you want help, I didn't use the word help because you don't use help. You don't tell Vince McMahon he needs help. I said, if you want me to contribute, I'd love to once again contribute. Because like I said, bro, I don't want to be the guy that sits here and critiques it and buries it and doesn't offer to help. So I literally, within the last week, we had an exchange, and that's all I'll say about that. But that's why I did it, bro. I need to be able to look myself in the mirror and say, bro, you did everything you could possibly do to try to help the current situation.
Did he seem receptive?
Bro, Vince never seems receptive. I mean, his response is always a couple of words, and I mean, he's not that guy, bro. He's the same guy that told me I don't see why you can't get a nanny to hire your kids. I mean,
Did he hit you with a thanks, pal?
No, not this time. Not this time. And it's not even the thanks. Usually, bro, it's just THX. Usually.
THX. How much traveling did you do with Vince McMahon?
Bro, that's the thing, man. You know, Sean, I got to tell you, like, obviously I was on the road with him every week, but bro, traveling with him was such a freaking drain. Like, everybody thinks it's such a glorious job and this, that, and the other thing. Traveling with him, bro, was the worst part of the job, because you were constantly nonstop talking about the product on the way to the show, after the show, to the next town, in airplane galleys, at the freaking airport, you know, in the car on the way. I mean, it was freaking nonstop, bro. When the show was over, and, you know, you would fall asleep in the back seat. You know, him and Shane usually sat in the front. I'd sit in the back with Ed. When you'd finally fall asleep after the show, bro, it would be the middle of winter, and he would crank the windows all the way down so you couldn't even freaking sleep. And that's what I mean, bro. When you give 5 years of that, after 5 years, bro, the tank's just on empty.
Say if Vince McMahon had to go through fast food, what's he ordering?
Oh my God, bro. Bro, I could tell you this, man. There were a couple of times like we got stuck and like you had to go to a, you know, like the gas station, you know, and stuff like that. Bro, the only thing they would eat at the gas station was beef jerky.
It's delicious.
Yeah, that's it. That's all they would eat gas station food wise. Nothing else. That's it.
Who mostly did you travel with, if not Vince?
Vince. I'll tell you, it was always Vince, bro. It was always Vince. Early on, though, bro, my very, very, very first traveling partner when I was writing for the magazine, which, bro, I had a great time, very memorable. I missed the crap out of them. Was the legendary Howard Finkel. Howard Finkel was my driving buddy when I first started working for the WWE. Bro, he introduced me to the Dairy Queen Blizzard. I never had a Dairy Queen Blizzard. He used to freaking drive with his feet, which I got a kick out of. But I love those days, bro. I love driving with Fink. Loved it.
So how much traveling did you have to do for the magazine, and what exactly did that entail?
I had to go to the TVs, bro. I had to go to all the TVs. Bro, before I was editor of the magazine, they didn't go to the TVs. They were just making crap up in the magazine. And I got hired, and I'm like, well, what's wrong with you people? You have access to the freaking talent. Why are you making things up? So like I started going to all the TVs and, you know, all that stuff in the magazine from that point on was right out of their mouths. I remember, bro, I used to do an advice to the Love Lawn column with Sean. I went to Sean with the questions and he would give me the answers. I mean, everything at that point was coming from the talent.
In WCW, who did you travel with?
Oh, God, bro.
One would assume Ed.
Ed, I travel with Terry a lot. Terry Taylor, bro. I traveled with him a lot. Yeah, I mean, those two guys most of the time.
What was that road schedule like in comparison to that of WWE? You didn't have Vince there, so
what, bro. Here was the thing. Like people were like always, you know, well, why'd you jump to WCW? The schedule was the same as the WWE, bro. The schedule was the same, but when I got hired by WCW, one thing that I said to them was, "Look, if I need to take off a TV, I'm taking off a TV." So in other words, if Ed has to run a TV one week, he's going to run the TV. I needed the freedom to be able to step away from it, recharge my batteries, and have a little time off. That was fine with them. They had no issue with that. Bro, that isn't a possibility with Vince. I mean, you could literally have a freaking bullet in your head and you'd have to show up for TV. That is not an option. So I had a little bit more freedom at WCW.
Do you remember the first time you saw ECW programming?
Yes.
Do you happen to remember what it was, when it was, what was on it?
All I remember, bro, is it was on the country music channel at the time. CMT, I guess it was.
TNN?
Yeah, TNN. Yeah, I remember, Brian. I know it was a Friday night, I think, and I just happened to come across it on a Friday night on TNN, and that was the first time I saw it.
Did that motivate you in any way? Did you see that and think, oh, this is gritty, this is different? Or what was your opinion on it?
Bro, that it didn't motivate me at all, and so many people like to say that it did. And bro, I was motivated by the NWO. I mean, when I saw what Eric was doing with the NWO, I was like, bro, we need to be doing that. When I saw ECW, bro, what blew me away was like, I would watch in awe that these guys are freaking killing themselves. Like literally, I honestly felt, bro, I was going to be watching that show one week and I was going to witness somebody freaking break their neck or break their back. And that's what captivated me about ECW was like, these guys are freaking like absolutely killing themselves. And how is Paul Heyman convincing these guys that they need to go out there and almost kill themselves? But I never thought that's what the WWE should be. But I definitely was inspired by the NWO, no doubt.
What did you think of ECW going out of business within months of WCW?
Bro, you know what? You know, with anything, bro, it all comes down to money and it all comes down to dollars and cents, bro. I mean, that's what it's all about. I mean, I look at TNA now, bro. People, you know, a lot of people like to say, oh, Vince, you're a one-trick pony and Vince was filtering you. I hate to correct people, bro. We had over 2 million people watching TNA at one time. Okay, bro, they're at 300,000 now. So somehow they went from 2 million to 300,000. Why, bro? Dollars and cents. You've got to spend money to make money. And when the money is no longer there, you're going to be done. Bro, you know, you can try to make chicken salad out of chicken shit for so long. You still need your freaking superstars. Bro, TNA losing the Hardys was a massive blow. They didn't want to pay them. Period. At the end of the day, they didn't want to pay these guys, and they've paid for it. So, you know, it's all about money, bro. It's, you know, WWE is the kingpin and the only game in town because they got more money than everybody else. It's that simple.
What was your relationship like with Paul Heyman during, whether it be your WWF run or WCW run? Because I know that you all took Mike Awesome right from under their nose, and I'm sure he couldn't have been happy about that.
Bro, let me tell you something. Sean Ross Sapp. Okay. We were supposed to have a working relationship with ECW. That's what Vince McMahon said to me. And Vince McMahon said, Vince, whatever talent you want from there, okay, we can get, and in turn, we can send some of our talent over there. Okay, bro? So, bro, I'll never forget the first people, I think the first guys I told, well, I told Vince we should get Al Snow. I told Vince we should get the Dudleys. I told Vince we should get Taz. But, bro, every time I told, because Vince didn't watch WCW, he had no idea. Every time I told Vince we wanted a talent, he would go to Paul Lee, and Paul Lee would tell Vince, oh, they don't want to come there. And I'd sit there and I'm like, are you out of your freaking mind, Paul? Don't give me they don't want to come here. Anybody wants to come here to make the freaking money. Are you out of your freaking mind? But every time, bro, he would tell Vince they're not interested in coming there. And then you know what happened, bro? Then those talents started contacting me directly and saying, we want to come there. I was the guy that initially set up the meeting with Bubba and Devon and Vince McMahon. I'll never forget that, bro. They were as nervous as hell meeting with Vince. Taz called me freaking directly. They started calling me directly because Paul kept cutting them all off. So that was the relationship I had with him back then. Since then, bro, I was consulting for a short period in 2002. I had one conversation with Paul Heyman. And then, bro, I was the guy trying to recruit Paul to come work for TNA. So at that time, I had maybe 2 or 3 phone conversations with him. That's the extent of it, bro. That's it.
How did those phone conversations go in regards to TNA? He spoke a little bit about this with Ariel Helwani a few years ago about things that he wanted to do. But what were those conversations like?
Bro, let me tell you something. That was the beginning of the end for Dixie Carter. And I'll tell you why. I was having conversations with Paul Heyman. I suggested, I was a writer. And I suggested to Dixie, let's try to get Paul Heyman here. He can help us, right? I reached out to him. I had phone conversations with him, right? Finally, bro, I brought Paul Heyman to Dixie Carter. Okay, bro? Next thing I know, I go to Dixie's office one day. I love Paul, this, that, and the other thing. I set up a meeting with Paul and Spike TV. I said, when's the meeting, Dixie? She goes, it's tomorrow. I said, so you're going to New York tomorrow? She said, no. Paul's going by himself. Bro, as soon as I heard Paul Heyman was going to be alone with the Spike freaking executives, I knew that was the freaking beginning of the end, because Spike did not think highly of Dixie Carter. They did not respect Dixie Carter. Paul was going to go in there by himself, tell them all the things Dixie was doing wrong and what he would do, totally work circles around the Spike executives and bury Dixie and bury TNA. And I said to her, I said, are you freaking nuts, Dixie? But that's how clueless she was, bro. She had no idea Paul would go to that meeting and it would benefit Paul. He wasn't going to go in there and put TNA over. He was going to go in there and let Spike know how much they needed him. And that was exactly what he did. At that point, Spike was, you need to have an executive producer. You need to have an executive producer of this show. You need to have an executive producer. They never, ever brought that up before. That's when she then brought in Eric, and Eric was then the executive producer of the show, going to Spike, putting himself over like Paul did, and burying everything that Dixie did and TNA. That's why, bro, for these freaking idiots that actually believe when I was consulting for TNA and Spike found out about it, that I was the cause of them losing the contract. First of all, John Gaborik told Spike, Vince is consulting with us. They already knew, they didn't have an issue with it. Second of all, bro, the day John Gaborik sent home Eric Bischoff, I said, you're done. Your freaking Spike loves Eric Bischoff. This guy is going to come in the first month and send Eric home. They are done. That was the beginning of the end with the relationship between Spike and TNA. They've never rebounded from that. But when they sent Eric home, that was the end of it.
Another thing that Heyman said was something like he wanted to get rid of everybody on the roster over 40. That would have been a big chunk of that TNA roster at that point because they had Nash, they had Sting, they had a lot of names that they relied on who were over 40. Did you ever hear about that, and what did you think of it?
Bro, I heard about that, but at the end of the day, Paul Heyman wasn't looking at the numbers that I was looking at. And like I said, bro, we were drawing over 2 million people. Bro, do you know what segments were the highest rated segments every single week? The main event Mafia. And who was in the main event Mafia, bro? Kurt, Sting, Booker T, Kevin, Scott Steiner. That was the highest rated segment of the show. Bro, you eliminate all that at once, you're going to go down you're going to go down the drain. Now, do you incorporate the younger guys and build them up and start phasing out the older guys? Absolutely, you do that. That's what I tried to do with WCW. But to just go in there and clear out all the veterans when they were the ones drawing, I don't think TNA could have afforded to do that at the time, to be honest with you.
Who are some talent, whether it be WWF, WCW, TNA, that you thought could work at a main event level, but for whatever reason they didn't, or they didn't get the opportunity?
Oh, main event level. Oh, that's hard to say, bro, because I think when I was involved, like if I really thought somebody should have been at that level, we were going to get them to that level. There's a lot of guys I see now that are totally being freaking wasted, but I mean, back then when I was involved, bro, I can't say too many guys should have been given a main event opportunity and weren't. I really can't. I can't think off the top of my head.
I'll throw out some names of people who maybe have that tag associated with them. In TNA, a guy, Monty Brown, he was in some main events, but never got that title shot, moved to WWE, had some family issues, and walked away from the business.
Yes, I agree. Monty Brown was a great talent, great guy to work with, charisma out the yin-yang, looked great. I definitely agree with that.
Disco Inferno, should he have gotten a Goldberg push?
Bro, do you know what? I did a special show today, and I'm doing it tomorrow too on Podcast One on Bash at the Beach, where I'm really getting into details. And Disco opens the show. Bro, this guy was the same jackass 18 years ago that he is today. Nothing has changed about this imbecile. Nothing. But no, he was a bottom feeder his whole career. That's where he belonged, bro.
There were also some guys who you would work with and then years later would become world champions, like Rey Mysterio. Did you ever see that for him, especially considering his size?
Bro, I really didn't get to work with him that long. Keep in mind, when I went to WCW, I was only there for 3 months, and then I left. So, like, I really didn't get to work with him that long to be able to say that.
How about a Bradshaw? He would reinvent himself and become JBL. But when you had worked with him, when you were with the magazine, he was Justin Hawk Bradshaw. Later, he was Blackjack Bradshaw, and even Bradshaw in the Acolytes.
Yeah, no, that one I did not see. And I'll be honest with you, Sean, I didn't see any of JBL's run as champion in the WWE. I wasn't watching it back then, so I didn't get to see any of it. But no, bro, that is not one that I would have seen in that light.
Was it hard to sell a Mick Foley with a world title? Because if I remember correctly, Vince didn't seem that on board with bringing in Mick Foley to begin with. But did he grow on Vince with rapid succession? How did that work out?
Oh yeah, no, bro. I think he grew on Vince. I think, yeah, as we built his role and built his character, he delivered ratings. Bro, it was all about delivering ratings back then, bro. If you were delivering ratings, you were on the freaking show. It didn't matter who you were. And if you weren't, you weren't. See that's why I get so pissed off about It's a Different Time, because we would look at the minute by minutes. Whoever was drawing the numbers, they would be on the show. There are some people on today's show that nobody would watch, bro. No, and I don't know why they're there. I don't know why we're there. But Mick was given the opportunity. Mick delivered. Mick became money in the bank, and that's why we ran with him. He was money.
Was there anybody else that surprised you all? Like, this person's drawing numbers?
Bro, I'll tell you what people don't want to hear. I'll tell you what people don't want to hear, bro, because Bischoff did not want to hear this when I used to work with him. Bro, I swear to you, when I worked at TNA, the freaking knockouts would outdraw the guys every single freaking week, to the point, bro, that when I had the book there, and people don't understand, I solely, with no interference, had the book for maybe all of 2 months. But when I had the book there, the girls were so over, they were getting 2 matches on every show. They had never gotten 2 matches before. But every time you put a knockout match out there, bro, they were outdrawing the male wrestlers.
And was there anybody that you thought was going to be a draw? You thought they were going to a sure hit and just fell flat or didn't work out? Disco Inferno again. Good answer.
Yeah, but who you think I thought he was going to be over? The minute I
saw
a
Wolfpack shirt on him, maybe it'll work.
Bro, the minute I saw this guy with the nose and the bouffant hairdo, I'm like, this guy couldn't draw a dime, bro. Come on, that was no surprise to anybody. But no, I can't. I can't think of anybody off the top of my head, bro. Like I said, there are people now that I think should be freaking megastars that aren't. But back then, I can't.
Were you still around when Vince McMahon put the WWF title on himself?
Yes. Yeah.
Explain.
Well, that was probably from us. We probably wrote that. I mean,
explain to me how that comes about, because that's one of the more. It's got to be fascinating.
Well, bro, it's the same reason why I put the belt on me for a week. Bro, when you're writing 52 weeks of television and you want it to be freaking different every week, you've got to create situations like that so it doesn't become monotonous and it isn't the same thing week after week after week. So if you put the belt on a Vince McMahon or a Vince Russo or a David Arquette or whatever the case may be, it just opens up the avenues to different creative roads that you can go down. So it's not the same thing every single week that Raw has freaking turned into now. That's why you do that.
Was Vince at all hesitant, or did he think it was a good idea initially?
He thought it was a good idea, bro. I mean, it was just to us, bro. It was just another week of television. I mean, it was no big deal. It was just another week of television.
When a Vince McMahon hears that he is going to do that, or decides that he's going to do that rather, and he's like, okay, I'm going to be in a match, does he start preparing in any certain way?
Yeah. Not publicly, but privately, bro, no doubt. No, bro, this is like the most prideful man I've ever met in my freaking life. There is no doubt about it, bro, that privately he was, when he was not behind his desk, he was in a gym and he was being trained.
At that point, he had something like maybe 12 to 15 matches. That may be the quickest road to the WWF Championship for the oldest champion ever. So as Vince gets this championship, is it known beforehand he's going to vacate it the week after? Like,
bro, not really, bro. When we wrote TV, we wrote pay-per-view to pay-per-view. We wrote month to month. So like we kind of knew where we were going for the next pay-per-view, but then we were very free week to week to week. And like I said, bro, we would look at the ratings, we would look at the numbers, we would listen to what the people were saying. And, you know, so we didn't really lock ourselves in. We were kind of flexible and open if we had a change on the fly.
Vince McMahon, worth noting, also a former ECW world champion, Vince.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, he beat Bobby Lashley for the ECW title one time.
Nice. I didn't know that one.
Well, Vince, I want to thank you for joining me to film these, and I'll wrap right here.